Ian Bentham is a wanker. A wanker.
Wanker! Wanker!
I know.
Wanker! Wanker!
Yes, I know, yes.
Welcome back, readers. Happy springtime. I'm Robin. I'm your uncle. Have you ever become hyper-focused on true crime? Have you ever thought to yourself, the cops don't know how to do their jobs? Ever seen an episode of Murder, She Wrote and thought, I could do that? Are you a septuagenarian who has boundary issues? Then you might want to join the Thursday Murder Club. This week's movie is based on a book by Richard Osman. The Thursday Murder Club is a dark comedy starring the Rabbi, Queen Elizabeth II, James Bond, Lucifer, and Doctor Who.
Oh, yes.
The Thursday Murder Club is about a group of retirees who are bored with their day-to-day and decide to solve cold case murders on their own. But when someone in their community turns up dead, their cold case is replaced with a piping hot one. It's filled with twists, turns, and shocking reveals. So let's start the Thursday Murder Club. So the movie begins with a black and white retelling of a cold case from 1973. Peter Mercer was walking home and he saw his girlfriend thrown out of their window with a knife wound. He sees a burglar running away from the scene, but as he has a leg injury, he's unable to pursue him. And when the police get there, she has already died. We meet everyone very quickly. Elizabeth, played by Helen Mirren, is clearly the leader of the group and she's doing like the dictating. Ron, who was played by Pierce Brosnan, says that the whole thing stinks. They were a young couple. They had nothing to steal, so it made no sense that there was a robber there. Ibrahim, played by Ben Kingsley, notes that no one else saw the masked man except the boyfriend. The boyfriend was ex-military, so he should have been able to apply first aid to the girlfriend if she needed first aid. The boyfriend, after having been exonerated by police, disappeared shortly after. He claimed to the police that his girlfriend had died on the spot, but Elizabeth doesn't believe this because she knows that it takes time to bleed out. Why she knows this, we're not sure yet. They all agree that they need some medical expertise. Englefield House is known for Pippa Middleton's wedding. In the movie, this is called Cooper's Chase. It is the retiree community that these three belong to. It is for very affluent retirees, and it is located in Kent, England. So we meet Joyce, who is a new resident of Cooper's Chase, and she is showing around her daughter, Joanna. We get another archery scene. What is up with shooting arrows in these movies? Is archery more popular than I think it is? I'm trying to go for like a spring thing today, you know? I'm optimistic that the weather is going to start to change soon, and we're going to start seeing some greenery and some friggin' birds. So Joyce is showing Joanna around, and she wants to see the jigsaw room. And so they step into the jigsaw room and they see these three retirees looking at a photo of a dead woman. And Joanna is horrified. And Joyce says, "Isn't this where we do jigsaws?" And they go, "Not on Thursdays."
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, it wasn't my fault this time. Something was going on with my recording software. The mic is plugged in, it is working, but you hear nothing but clicks for the last 10 minutes. So my eyes are half done. Deal with it. All right, let's do this again. Joanna says that she's worried about her mom ever since Jerry died, her husband. Wait, so we've got Joanna, Joyce, and Jerry. I'm seeing a pattern here. He seems to have the same naming criteria as Roald Dahl.
Grandpa George, Grandma Georgina.
Joanna says that she'd rather that her mom come and live in an apartment near her. And Joanna says, what am I going to do in an apartment? Like, I'm not going to talk up anybody. I don't know anybody. I don't have any friends. I need to be able to be part of a community. And Joanna says, all right, fine. Later that day, Joyce is doing a Sudoku with a man named Bernard. He has a much bigger role in the book that I will try to remember to get to. I don't think they even say his name out loud here. I had to look it up in the credits to find out who this character was. So they're doing a Sudoku, and these three come up to Joyce, but Elizabeth asks her if she is a nurse. And Joyce says, why do you ask? And Elizabeth says, well, you saw this picture of a dead woman and you didn't really seem to flinch at all. And you could have been a doctor, but based on your age, it's a lot more likely that you were a nurse. And Joyce says, that is bang on, that is correct. So they pull out this same photo, and Bernard goes, dear God, which is the correct response to something like that coming out like while you're doing a Sudoku. And they ask Joyce whether the injury that the woman has in the photo could have been survivable. And she says, if administered some care, then yes. So Bernard is like, do you mind? So they ask Joyce whether she wants to come and talk about it privately. And she says, I'm sorry, who are you? And they introduce themselves as the Thursday Murder Club. Joyce looks absolutely delighted. She looks pleased as punch. Then we meet Ian Bentham, played by the incomparable, talented David Tennant. David Tennant, he can do no wrong in my eyes. He is an exceptional actor. He is a wonderful person. His child is non-binary and he's a huge ally. I love his wife, Georgia Tennant. I have a recurring dream, actually, about Georgia Tennant. David and I become friends, or we have like a professional relationship, like we work together or something, and Georgia gets mad that we have like a relationship. If Georgia is watching, if this ever does reach Georgia, I love you. I think you're so great. Love you. Love your family. Ian Bentham is a right wanker, and it is a testament to David's acting as a whole because he does a really great job of making me hate him. So, as I said, Ian Bentham is a wanker, a wanka.
Wanker! Wanker!
I know.
Wanker! Wanker!
Yes, I know, yes.
Did you ever think of this? A wanker is someone who masturbates. Think about it. So he's on the phone with his lawyer, and his wife is divorcing him, and she wants a lot of his property. And he's like, it was just one shag. So this gives you an idea of who he is as a person. And he arrives at this coffee shop where one of his contractors, Bogdan, is waiting for him. Bogdan is a Polish man who is working under the current head contractor, Tony Curran. In the book, he's like a side contractor who does some of the work at Cooper's Chase. Ian Bentham owns Cooper's Chase, by the way. He is the, I believe, majority owner. And so Bogdan works for him. Ian says that he is planning on ripping up the cemetery and making it into luxury condos and kicking out all of the residents of Cooper's Chase and turning that building into an event space, which it already is in real life. Can I just say, Bogdan? Wow. There are some thirst traps in this movie. So the waitress comes by and gives Ian his drink, and Bogdan thanks her. His current contractor, Tony Curran, is not down with the idea because his aunt lives in the residence. So he has decided to fire Tony. In the book, it's because he doesn't want to pay him to do the renovations. He'd rather pay Bogdan because Bogdan does it for much cheaper. Ian asks Bogdan whether he would be willing to take over as foreman. I think foreman is the right term. The head contractor on the project. And Bogdan's like, well, my mom is home in Poland. She's very sick and I'm trying to send her money. So yeah, that would be great. I would be down for that. But you should be careful though, because Tony is a very powerful man. With a straight face, he says, I'm a mixed martial artist. You can see Bogdan trying not to laugh at this. He says he'll take the job, but he says, you should be careful. Back at Cooper's Chase, the Thursday Murder Club pass Tony Curran, who we were just speaking about, and his Aunt Maud. There's no Aunt Maud in the book, but she's a good vector for some of the plot points that take longer to get to in the book. They tell Joyce about Ian's plans to kick out the seniors, because it's like a rumor that's going around, but they're saying that Tony, even though he seems like a bit of a character, he's really rough around the edges, but he is on the side of the retirees, so that's all that matters. And Joyce is a little nervous because she's like, I just got here. But they're like, don't worry, Tony wouldn't let anything happen to us. So I had someone ask me the reason why I don't do my foundation and concealer first. And the reason for that is because if there's some fallout, I end up having to take that part off anyway. So I do the eyes first. What you could do if you wanted to do if you really, really wanted to do your foundation and concealer first, is you could put some baby powder here. And so that when there is fallout, you can just wipe it all away. But I just feel like this is easier. So they're in the puzzle room again, and Joyce serves them just the most delicious looking, dense, moist cake. I want cake. You're gonna really want to eat cake when you watch this. Joyce's cakes look so freaking delicious, and I don't even like cake. So they say that they've been looking for a medical expert to join their group for a long time, and they say they would like to have her on a trial basis. So they turn their attention back to the woman in white who fell out of the window. Hey, isn't that the movie we did last week? Elizabeth says that all of the male detectives at the time said that Peter Mercer was a real good bloke, and they liked him, so they didn't believe that he killed his girlfriend. The only one who suspected him at the time was the only female police officer named Penny, who is the other founding member of the Thursday Murder Club. And Joyce says that she would love to meet her, but Elizabeth tells us that she's in hospice. Elizabeth goes to visit Penny, and it turns out that she is in a coma, or a vegetative state, I'm not sure. And they don't really say. She's just unconscious. She visits Penny and Penny's husband, John, who I didn't realize until later is the priest from Hot Fuzz.
Jesus Christ!
While Elizabeth is visiting with Penny, John asks her how things are doing with her husband, Stephen. Stephen has dementia, and he has good days and bad days. And so John tells her to treasure the good moments, which is really good advice. Lash is on. Elizabeth returns home to Stephen, and he plays a voice recording for her to tell her what he had for lunch. Elizabeth makes him a cup of tea and puts a pill in it, presumably his dementia meds. So later on, there is a meeting with a police constable named Donna DeFreitas, who is teaching them about security. I think my eyebrows actually match each other. Bound to happen sometime. It seems like everyone here has already heard this spiel before and they're very bored by it. So Elizabeth hijacks the meeting by asking about the cold case. And PC DeFreitas doesn't seem very comfortable answering that. And then she turns around and she sees that they're booting her car. Seeing a cop's car get booted just gave me such joy in my heart. I guess because she didn't bother parking in a parking spot, they booted her car. So they're like, listen, you're not going to get unbooted for another hour. So let's take you to lunch. So the Thursday Murder Club bring PC DeFreitas to lunch, or Donna, her name's Donna. So they ask PC DeFreitas whether she's bored in Kent, and she says yes. She used to be in Met Police, so in London. They don't talk about it in the movie, but in the book she moved to Kent because she wanted to get away from her ex-boyfriend. One of these days I'm going to need to use a contour stick that's not this one, but until I find one that's this good, it's not going to happen. So they go around the table and talk about their jobs. Stephen is an author. That's Elizabeth's husband. Ibrahim was a psychiatrist. Ron was a famous trade unionist who they called Red Ron.
Red Ron!
Joyce, we already know she's a nurse. Joyce's daughter is a hedge fund manager. And Elizabeth says that she was in international affairs. I think that means she was in MI6, just based on the way that she talks about stuff. She seems very, savvy about murder. MI6 is Britain's answer to the CIA, or CSIS if you're Canadian. So Ron's son Jason arrives, played by Tom Ellis. God, there are some sexy men in this movie. So it turns out that Jason, Ron's son, is a famous boxer who got an injury, so now he kind of does the media circuit, like he does Celebrity MasterChef. Now he's doing this skating thing. Anything to stay in the limelight, I guess. PC DeFreitas recognizes him, and she kind of makes a fool of herself, as people tend to do with celebrities, I'm told. I think in one of my other videos I talked about how my husband met Donald Sutherland, but he had a mouthful of peanut butter, so Donald Sutherland did not hear any of the glowing praise that he gave him. As Donna's driving away, Tony and Ian fighting loudly, and Tony storms off. He confirms to the Thursday Murder Club that the rumors are true, that they're trying to kick out the residents of Cooper's Chase, and that he is going to fight them on it. Next we have the Cooper's Chase meeting. Ian, before doing any work around the residence, has to confer with the residents of Cooper's Chase. So they have a meeting. And I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like he is not actually in the scene. It looks like he's acting against a green screen. The way that it's shot, when we're looking at him, he is by himself. And when we're looking at everybody else, they are all sort of by themselves. And the timing seems a little off. Also, when you see these wide shots, some of the extras look like they don't know where to look. I have a feeling it's because David Tennant is one of the hardest working actors in the UK. And he probably they had to work around his schedule. This blush is very subtle. It's a little too subtle. They have this meeting and everyone is voicing their dissatisfaction. And then Bernard stands up and says that there are problems with the alpacas, which has nothing to do with what they're talking about. Ian says, oh, I'm going to be donating them to a donkey sanctuary. And then John, who is the veterinarian, stands up and he's like, I'm the vet. I'm taking care of these alpacas. Like, you can't just get rid of them. And Ian doesn't really care. And he's like, well, your 10 minutes are up, and he leaves. So we then move to Tony, who goes home after the meeting, and it shows his house as being ransacked, and he goes over to the security system, which has been disconnected, and then we see him turn around and ask to the camera, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Presumably to someone who has broken into his house. Next thing we see is that Tony has been killed. He's been bludgeoned to death. So Joyce is eating breakfast and she hears on the radio that Tony Curran has died, and she excitedly goes and rounds up the rest of the Thursday Murder Club. Disco Inferno plays while she's going and rounding up her friends. I really like the music in this movie. So the music in this movie is all from the 1970s, which I think is very fun. It kind of lends an air of nostalgia, which makes sense because this is the kind of music that these people would have enjoyed in their time. So even though it's like a modern movie, you still are kind of bringing in the elements of what it may have been like to be young during these eras. Everyone seems pretty bummed out that Tony is no longer there to protect their home for them, but Joyce is so excited because she wants to investigate a real murder, like a live murder. A live murder? Is that a thing? At the police station, PC DeFreitas is the only female cop, and of course she's the one who's giving out tea. Elizabeth and Joyce go to the police station and say that someone has stolen Elizabeth's purse. And they say that they need to talk to a woman.
I promise you, I'm fully qualified and have a very gentle temperament.
She's a nun!
So PC DeFreitas comes to talk to them. They go off to an interview room. Or interrogation room, and she asks what they're doing there, and they say, listen, we know that you're happy to see us, and we also know that you're super bored. How would you like to be on the Tony Curran murder case?
Who do you think you are, the head of MI5?
No.
How could you do that? She's like, oh, we have our ways. Okay, well, what's in it for you? And so Elizabeth is like, first of all, she's like, I like that suspicion. That's a good trait to have. She says, all we want is if we have some questions about the murder case that you give us information. PC DeFreitas is like, or Donna, I'm gonna call her Donna. So Donna is like, I can't give you like confidential information. And they're like, no, you don't need to give us anything that was inappropriate, but we would like to sort of, quid pro quo. And Donna's like, okay, well, how fast could you get this done? And they're like, within the hour. So meanwhile, Ibrahim and Ron are making Ron's apartment look dirty and gross, and making Ron look really sort of unhinged and disheveled, kind of playing into stereotypes about older people. And they call the police saying that Ron has information about the murder case. The DCI, the inspector, the one in charge of the investigation, comes to the apartment. I'm going to put on earrings today. And Ron has a conniption when the DCI arrives, saying he doesn't like talking to police. But he'll talk to that nice policewoman. So Ibrahim talks about how PC DeFreitas came to talk to them about security and how he knows her and he likes her. So maybe she can come and take a statement. And the DCI says, well, she's not really working on this case. What if you did? Is that possible? Could you do that? And so within the hour, PC DeFreitas is now on the murder case. She texts Elizabeth, WTF.
What does WTF mean?
What the fuck?
Sorry?
What the fuck?
So these are labia earrings that I made myself. They are available on my Etsy page. Later that night, Elizabeth texts Donna saying that Cooper's Chase has a mysterious third investor. Ian is one investor. Tony Curran is another, or was another. There's a mysterious third investor that they don't know who it is. The next morning, Elizabeth asks Joyce if Joanna, the hedge fund manager, would be willing to look into Ian Bentham's accounts. Joyce is reluctant, but she agrees. Joyce calls Joanna and asks her for help, but Joanna basically says that she has more important things to do, and Joyce just guilt trips the hell out of her. Something that this age group is very good at doing. Donna and DCI Hudson are heading back to Cooper's Chase. As they're on their way, Hudson mentions that there was a photo left at the crime scene of Tony Curran and some other guy that nobody at the station seems to know who it is. Donna takes one look at it and is like, that's Bobby Tanner. He's a crime kingpin in London. He went underground and nobody knows where he is. So she also notices that there's a third man in the photo who has been cropped out, but they can see a tattoo on his arm. Thursday Murder Club is preparing for the arrival of the cops. They turn the heat up as high as possible and light a fire. Basically, Elizabeth says that if they make them as uncomfortable as possible, they might let slip some details from the case. Joyce says, well, I've had better experience giving people, being kind and giving them cake. And Elizabeth says, okay, have you ever interrogated an enemy spy in what was East Germany? So again, MI6 for sure. It clinches it for me. Joanna sends Joyce a PDF of Ian Bentham's financials. Donna and Hudson arrive and they squish Hudson in between Ron and Ibrahim. They tell the cops about the fight between Tony and Ian. They tell them about the shell company called Bloom & Marvelous, who is the third investor in Cooper's Chase. Also, it turns out that if Tony dies, that Ian gets all of the shares of the land. So he made millions off of this murder. So in exchange for this information, they're going to give them the financials, the PDFs, but they want the time of death. And Donna tells them, and Hudson's kind of pissed off about that. He's like, what, do you want the paperwork or not? So Jason is coming to visit Cooper's Chase. He's talking to some of the women there, talking about how he made like a really good puff pastry on MasterChef. They say, you must be really good with your hands. And he says, oh, I've heard that before.
Nice.
Hudson is very excited to meet him. So Ron takes a picture of the two of them together, kind of doing this like boxing thing. Hudson asks Jason if they knew Tony, and he says not really. Jason very quickly storms off in a huff. Elizabeth goes to Maud, who is again Tony's aunt, and asks her if she has any ideas about who killed him, and she says yes, but I'm not going to talk about them with police present. That's a good call, Maud. Snitches get stitches. Elizabeth notices that there is a bouquet of flowers that has been given to Maud, and it is signed BT. Donna, in the car, tells Hudson that Jason is the third man in the photo. She noticed that he has the tattoo. She also says that in his file, it says that he used to do odd jobs for Tony around Cooper's Chase before he got famous. And so he should know Tony. And so him saying that he doesn't is suspicious. In the meantime, the cops go pay a visit to Ian Bentham, and they ask him about Bobby Tanner, and Ian knows who he is. More or less, it comes out that Bobby Tanner is probably the one who killed Tony.
He's the third owner.
Third owner of what?
Cooper's Chase. Keep up. Jesus, you lot are slow.
So he's the one who owns Bloom & Marvelous. He's like, listen, Tony brought him on at the last minute for like a cash boost. I didn't really deal with him. I thought he was dead. If you think he did this, you better go out and find him. He like looks visibly worried. Meanwhile, the Thursday Murder Club is driving to Tony Curran's house rather slowly. Ibrahim has an algorithm that'll tell them whether or not Ian could have killed Tony in the time that he left Cooper's Chase to go up to Tony's house, based on the time of death that they received from Donna. He concludes that no, Ian couldn't have done it. So they text Donna, and Donna comes up to DCI Hudson and says, listen, Ian Bentham couldn't have killed Tony Curran. And he goes, why? She tells him that the Thursday Murder Club gave her the information, and he starts to get even more frustrated. He's like, listen, I don't want a bunch of pensioners telling me how to do my job. I already have someone out in the field going to do that exact same exercise. And that person comes in.
Could Bentham have got there in time to kill Curran? Yes or no?
No.
Right, piss off, Griffiths.
Donna calls Elizabeth and says that she needs help finding Bobby Tanner. Donna also tells her about the photo at the crime scene and tells her that Jason was in it. Elizabeth is walking alone outside and she notices she's being followed, so she runs into the cemetery and tries to hide, but a brusque man comes up to her and says, "Don't wake the dead." This guy's not in the book. So the next day, Ron has organized a protest. The song is Power to the People, another great choice.
Smithers, get me some strike breakers, the kind they had in the 30s.
Most of the members of Cooper's Chase are there. Ian and Bogdan arrive, but they can't get through, so Ian tells Bogdan to go around the back way and break ground because they need to break ground today. So he tells him just to start shoveling by himself. So Ian tries to push his way to the front of the crowd, and Father Mackey gets in the way, so he pushes him aside, and then Jason's there. Jason and Ian have a heated argument. So Elizabeth sees Bogdan digging, and she comes to chat. She sees that he has a tattoo on his arm that says Marina, so she says that her name's Marina to try to get favor with him, and he says, "Oh, my mother's name is Marina. She's back in Poland." So she starts to talk to him in Polish. Again, more and more is starting to make me think that she worked for MI6. She asks him, what happened now that Tony is dead, like who is the head contractor, and he says that it's him. And so she asks him point blank, "Did you kill Tony Curran for Ian Bentham?" And he says, "I would never take another man's life for Ian Bentham." Ian is pushing his way through the crowd to make his way back to his car, and then he faints. So Joyce, the nurse, comes up and pokes her fingers in his eyes and takes his pulse, and she concludes, "Ian's dead." Okay, I can turn the movie off. David Tennant's gone from the movie. I don't want to watch the rest. Ian has died.
I don't want to go.
So as soon as she says that he's dead, people start taking pictures. And I find this part really believable because even though it's broad daylight, they all have their flash on. Back in the jigsaw room, Elizabeth basically asserts that there's been another murder. Donna texted her saying that the probable cause of death is an injection of fentanyl. They conclude that they're all suspects. Elizabeth tells the group about the photo with Tony Curran and Bobby Tanner, but does not mention that Jason's in it because she worries that Ron's going to be upset. They get suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
She is clearly leaving something out, but she switches gears and says, "We have to find Bobby Tanner. This is the only way that we can figure out what's going on." And only Bobby Tanner can stop the construction on Cooper's Chase because now he is the full owner. Elizabeth goes home and Bogdan is there playing chess with Stephen. He tells her that he was looking for someone named Marina, and everyone said that there was no one of that name in the residence. So he just looked for the nosy busybody, and they all knew that it was Elizabeth. She apologizes for manipulating him. So he says that he needs her to meet him at the cemetery tonight alone. The cops go to the ice rink where they see Jason practicing for his ice dancing thing. And they ask him why Ian Bentham called him 3 times before Tony Curran's death. And he says, it doesn't matter. They keep asking him questions. Where were you when Tony was killed? He doesn't have an alibi. So they arrest him. They have no evidence. They have no grounds. Why? This does not happen in the book. They don't arrest him in the book. That's dumb. So Ron gets a call from Jason saying that he's been arrested. And Ron says, don't tell them anything. Finally, someone with some sense. So Elizabeth meets with Bogdan. Bogdan asks her about the pill that she puts in Stephen's drink because he saw it. And she said, it's just to help him sleep. So I guess it's not for his dementia. And she says, but if you were to have more than one, it would be lethal. Bogdan explains that his mother also has dementia and she's very sick. And he would love to go visit her, but they took our passports. And he brings her over to an open grave and shows her that there is a body inside. Okay, it's a skeleton inside a grave. Not too suspicious, except that the bones have been placed on top of the coffin. This is probably a body that someone's trying to hide. So there's another murder on our hands. So the next day, the cops come to dig up the body because Elizabeth called them, and Hudson does not believe her story. She's like, yeah, I was looking for tulip bulbs and I had my little trowel and I found the body just mysteriously, even though the whole last grave has been dug up. In the book, they take some bones, they get their specialists to do some tests on it before they call the cops. Hudson tells them to keep their nose out of his investigation, and they agree. That night, Liz hears someone in her apartment. It looks like the same guy that accosted her in the cemetery has left flowers, and the flowers say, "Your final warning, back off." Next morning, Donna is out jogging, I guess, or she just came here on her day off, and she tells Elizabeth that the bones were Peter Mercer. Peter Mercer was the boyfriend from the 1973 cold case. So Elizabeth brings Donna to meet Penny because Penny was part of the police force. So back at the station, Jason is being questioned, and Ron comes in with this suit. I love it. I love this suit so much. Hudson says, "Did you get married in that suit?" He's like, "Yeah, twice." And he says he's going to be Jason's representation because he knows how to represent himself against, you lot. And Ron says that there's no evidence to hold Jason, which is true. Then Ibrahim comes in and says that he's going to be a psychological evaluator, as brought on by Ron, because he's afraid that Jason might have PTSD from this whole ordeal. And then Joyce toddles in and offers cake to everybody. Hudson tells Ron that Jason refuses to say where he was when Tony was killed. And Ron turns to Jason and says, just say where you were, mate. Oh, I thought you were supposed to be my representation. Okay, well, now I'm your dad and just say where you were. And Jason reluctantly says that he was with Ian Bentham's wife. And he took a selfie that is time-stamped. Can someone explain to me what is with the post-coitus selfie? It's weird, right? Is it weird? Am I 100 or is that weird? And now he has an alibi. They let Jason go. So Elizabeth texts Donna, would you like to visit Bobby Tanner? Donna and Elizabeth are driving and Donna says, is this your car? Elizabeth's like, yeah, it was a retirement present from MI6. I knew it! They never say in the book explicitly that she's from MI6, so this is just me figuring it out. I feel smart. Or I missed it. I'm not perfect. So they go to a farmer's market. Hey, look, it's Jesus. She realized that the flowers that were delivered to her house, that were apparently the most toxic mix of flowers that you could possibly give someone, it had the same card as Maud. She looked up the graphic online and found this place, which I don't remember what it's called. I think Bloom and Marvelous is a better name than... It's not important. It's not very clever. So they go inside and they ask to see the owner, and the owner's in the basement. They go down to the basement and they meet the Spice Girls manager. I mean, the Great Intelligence. I mean, the dad from Saltburn. I mean, Bobby Tanner. They address him by name, and he's like, I was wondering when you were going to come. They asked if they had Ian and Tony murdered, and he had an alibi. He was arranging flowers for a big wedding, and so they're like, wait a minute, you're actually a florist? This is the time when I noticed that he has blood all over his hands, but I guess it's because he's a big man, and he's cutting thorns, and it doesn't matter if his hand gets all cut up, and I put on gloves. Yeah, he's actually just a florist. They ask him what he plans to do with Cooper's Chase, and he's like, I'm planning on selling it as quickly as possible. So Elizabeth asks Donna to leave them alone, and after she leaves, his errand boy comes down, and lo and behold, it's the man who was intimidating Elizabeth. He says he picked up some immigrants and took their passports. So Elizabeth says that she's going to release the info of where he is if he doesn't stop the illegal activity. And Bobby agrees. He's like, listen, we're businessmen. And she goes, what do you mean we're? He's like, oh, well, I was in business with Bobby Tanner. I took some of the immigrants to work for me. He took some of them to work for him. He's like, yeah, sometimes I let them go home, but Tony, no. At this same time, Bogdan is playing chess with Stephen. Stephen says to Bogdan that he thinks he knows who killed Tony Curran, and he accuses Bogdan. This confused me in the book too. It was confusing to me because I don't know how Stephen figured that out, especially since the motive in the book is completely different, so there aren't really any breadcrumbs to lead him to figure that out. Bogdan basically said that he didn't mean to kill Tony, he just wanted his passport and there was a struggle. This did not happen in the book. In the book, he killed him in cold blood on purpose. So as Bogdan is trying to convince Stephen that it was an accident, Stephen loses his train of thought, and Bogdan offers to go and make him tea. The Thursday Murder Club bursts in, and they see that Stephen has drunk all of his tea. Bogdan tries to escape, and Ron decks him. They arrest Bogdan, even though he says that there's no proof. I don't know what you're talking about. Stephen's confused, and then Elizabeth takes Stephen's recording device, because he records all of the chess matches, and finds Bogdan confessing. And she goes, you didn't poison his tea, did you? And he goes, no, of course not. I would never do that. Stephen's my friend. This part in the movie pissed a lot of people off because in the book, he gets away with it. In the book, there is this whole thing about how his friend got killed. And so he was like taking revenge. Stephen keeps it to himself. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody. I have no reason to. And apparently Bogdan in the other books becomes like a good resource for them, a good friend. But here, nope, he gets arrested and he's carted off. So I don't know what they're planning on doing for the next movie, if they are going to do a next movie. Having solved the murder, the group is watching Jason ice dance, but Elizabeth just can't let go of the 1973 murder. She's looking at the photos and suddenly she realizes something. So she brings the Thursday Murder Club to Penny's room. She mentions to John that she was confused as to why Penny didn't bring the cold case to them, because that's where they got all their cold cases from. They would get them from Penny, and she found this one kind of tucked away, and she was confused as to why they never looked at it before. Penny killed Peter Mercer, she says. Didn't she, John? And you helped her. John had mentioned earlier that he went to Mass with Father Mackey in the 70s, so they would have been around this place at the time. Elizabeth says that Penny is in all the photos giving Peter Mercer a death glare, and they all know that when she gets that look on her face, she's about to do something drastic. Elizabeth accuses John of killing Ian to protect Penny and essentially himself. And opens one of his drawers and there are syringes in there. And she's like, these are fentanyl, aren't they? And as was mentioned earlier, he is a veterinarian, so he would know how to administer fentanyl without anyone noticing. In the book, John didn't help her. He didn't know about it until she started to talk about what she had done when her mind started to go. And then he realized what she had done and he wanted to protect her legacy essentially. And he didn't want her to, I guess, carted off to prison. I don't know how it works in England, but I was under the impression that if you were of a certain physical disposition, that even if you got arrested, even if you were supposed to go to prison, they would release you under compassionate release. I don't think the state would want to take care of her, if she's like in a coma. Elizabeth says goodbye to her best friend and touches her necklace, which we see says TMC for Thursday Murder Club. So he asks to be able to say goodbye to his wife, to give them some time. And you see her look over to the drawer with the fentanyl, basically more or less saying that he's gonna kill her and himself, and she knows about it, and they all just let him do it. I'm confused by the morality of this move, especially within context of the movie. If Bogdan killed someone by accident and that is good enough for him to get arrested, then why is you letting someone kill his ailing wife and himself not morally wrong? So it transitions to their funeral. In the book, Elizabeth didn't go to the funeral. So we see here Ibrahim gives a lovely eulogy and Elizabeth gives Joyce Thursday Murder Club necklace that she took off her freshly dead friend's neck. Ooh, lovely. Thanks. Joanna comes to talk to the group. She says that she was wrong about Cooper's Chase and she didn't think that she would see Joyce happy again after her father died. And Elizabeth suggests that maybe she buy Cooper's Chase. And Joanna's like, that's a good idea. It's Elizabeth and Stephen's anniversary and they have a nice little dance and a very flaccid kiss. Elizabeth and Donna have better chemistry than she does with Stephen. We see Joyce and Ibrahim talking about their partners who have passed, and we see that Ibrahim is gay. That's like the closest that we get to queer representation in this movie. And that's it. That's the end of Thursday Murder Club. There's this whole subplot in the book about Father Mackey, about how he had an affair with a nun and it went really wrong. So he had to leave and he became a general practitioner for a while until he came back to the church. So they thought that he was impersonating a priest because they had wiped his records. It was a tragic story about Bernard that I'm really glad that they didn't include in the movie because it was the only part of the book that made me cry. It's really macabre and somber and like unnecessarily sad, and I'm not going to bum you out with it, but be prepared if you want to read the book. There's that in there. In the book, they didn't find out that it was Peter Mercer's bones until like way later. As soon as Elizabeth saw that it was Peter Mercer, she should have known it was Penny. She should have known. She is smarter than that. There's no reason for her to only figure it out because of, all of these photos of Penny looking angry. Like, she would have figured it out immediately. I love the color grading in this movie. It is so good. Like, everything is so beautiful and saturated. Even though the content is dark, it is beautifully shot. It is beautifully lit. The costuming is superb. You know who these characters are just by looking at how they're dressed, looking at how they hold themselves. I'm going to say it. The movie's better than the book. I'm sorry. The book was so convoluted for me. There was like a whole other character who was killed, and then he was in like Cyprus, and then Bogdan's friend killed him, and then Curran killed his friend, and so he killed Tony. It was so convoluted. I will say in the book, they made me real suspicious of Joyce. She was the only one who had a diary. We never saw the story in her perspective. We only saw what she chose to write in her diary. And she said stuff like, people underestimate me. And she was also a nurse, so she could easily have injected the guy with fentanyl. I thought that they were breadcrumbing the fuck out of it. And it turns out, nope. Not Joyce, this other guy. I liked the movie a lot better. It was a lot more streamlined. Richard Osman was one of the writers. Usually a good adaptation has at least one of the writers being the original author of the book. I think that they did a superb job of turning it into something that was digestible as a movie. Excellently done. Overall, I love this movie. I think it's going to become one of my favorite comfort films. I love it. Love it. 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10. There's some things that don't make any sense, but I really loved it. Welcome to all of my new subscribers. I am so happy to have you. If you want to support me further, feel free to send my channel to anybody who likes books, anyone who likes queer stuff, people who enjoy movie adaptations or just complaining about movies, or in this case, kvelling. I love it. I love this movie. Remember to like and subscribe. It's free. If you want to support me other ways, you can go into my Linktree and you can buy me a coffee or check out my TikTok. I'm thinking of going to a weekly schedule, but we'll see whether that is going to kill me or not. And in the meantime, be queer, read books. Bye. The Thursday Murder Club is a group about, the Thursday Murder Club. Oh my God. This is where this is within the, where is my primer? David asks David. Oh my God. So fun. Ah! No! Why? Yeah, yeah. I'm the peculiar purple pie man of Porcupine Peak. Oh, shit. Disco Inferno, burn that mother down. Disco Inferno, yeah. Burn the mother down. Quickly as possible.